just picked up New Horizons for the first time in 5 months. For myself, and probably many of us, New Horizons is a trip down memory lane to a time in our lives that was scary and uncertain at the height of COVID panic. Yet it was a relaxing escape from the confusion and drama of our world at the time. When I booted up the game today and heard the 6 p.m. music, I was reminded of how, as cliché as it sounds, grounded the game made me feel at probably the most tumultuous time period I've lived through. I've played Animal Crossing since I was a kid, and it's always made me feel at home, in a way. New Horizons may have been a comforting distraction in a challenging time, but after an extended period of playing the game, I can't help but feel that it's flawed. The game feels like a chocolate Easter bunny candy, a tantalizing shell but no reward in its core. It's entirely hollow. And for the past few months, I've thought the game was beyond the point of any content updates or fixes. The development team rolled out about a year of small updates, and I was convinced we weren't going to hear from the game again. This has since changed with the announcement of a New Horizons Direct on October 15th. Now, there's a glimmer of hope that New Horizons can become something that lives past an escape during COVID. It has a chance to capture me for years the way that New Leaf did. In order to do this, it has to address its main flaws. There are several quality of life changes that are needed in New Horizons, so I'm going to try to sum it up into 3 categories that we can discuss. Number 1. The villagers need to be worth interacting with. Since the original installment on the Nintendo GameCube, Animal Crossing has been sold as an experience moving to a new town and building a life with a new community. Decorating, designing clothes and furniture, gardening, and catching bugs and fish are important aspects of the experience, but they come second to the community and relationships you make with the members of your town. In New Horizons, there is a lack of personality and interaction that your villagers provide. You should start to feel yourself connecting with these characters, which in turn causes them to open up to you more in-game, providing you with more compelling dialogue that builds further chemistry and gives you more ways to interact. In New Horizons, this feels lost. Villagers feel like drones reading off of a script. Oftentimes when I talk to a villager of mine, villagers I've spent hours searching for to invite onto my island, they either comment on the current events transpiring on the island or comment on some piece of furniture they're standing next to. This dialogue stays consistent no matter how long the villagers have been on your island or how often you talk with them. First of all, this completely ruins the magic of discovering for yourself what is going on around your island. There's a community board for posting notes for a reason, and that's completely optional to read at the start of a new day. In older games, I could talk to my neighbors while also running around and discovering on my own that Sahara is in town, for example. Second off, and most importantly, this isn't engaging dialogue in the slightest, and it doesn't make me feel any sort of connection with the villager I'm chatting with. I remember in New Leaf, I used to love Lucky the dog. As I talked with him more, he would tell me interesting stories, visit my house on a whim, and ask me questions about various topics. I have Lucky in my New Horizons town now, and I'm sad to say that doesn't really happen anymore. On top of all that, the variations of different personalities that come connected to a villager don't offer any sort of real variety. If you have 2 lazy type villagers on your island, there isn't a point to talking with both of them because they'll probably say the exact same thing. This is extremely discouraging, especially since the cap for your villagers on your island is 10, while there are only 8 distinct personality types. You are bound to have some level of overlap even if you diversify the personalities on your island as much as possible. It's puzzling to me why the most important aspect of the game, connecting with your neighbors, feels neglected in this iteration. To me, their dialogue almost feels like a last-minute addition because of how poor it is. I think the game got lost in being so customizable with your island that it forgot what it does best. My solution feels fairly simple. Allow there to be an in-depth relationship development system with the villagers on your island. I'm pretty sure something like this already exists in New Horizons, but if so, it's far too shallow. As you connect with your villagers more, they engage with you in dynamic ways. They ask you to play games, do tasks for them, ask you questions and remember your answers. They make you feel like you're a friend of theirs. Make the distinct personality types interact with other personality types in tangible ways. If you look on the Animal Crossing wiki, you can find information such as this. Jock villagers get along with peppy, sisterly, normal, and other jock villagers. They have trouble getting along with snooty, cranky, and lazy villagers. Why is this preference for certain personality types by jock villagers never expressed in game? An overall relationship dynamic would make the world much more enjoyable to interact with. Sometimes we see 2 villagers talking with one another. These are always some of my favorite moments because the conversations feel in-depth and real. They talk about their interests, ask each other about their lives, and involve you in a conversation of depth. This is the sort of dialogue that New Horizons should take on in its entirety. Number 2, we need old content back and we need to see some hope for new content. Prior to its release, New Horizons marketed itself as a game that planned on frequent content updates, as most of us know. I was excited and believed that we will be getting new content for months to come. Unfortunately, this was not the case, and the game was released already missing a variety of features that older games came with. The plan was apparently to introduce these older pieces of content slowly throughout the game's life cycle. I have an issue with this idea in its entirety, but even before we discuss this idea as a whole, we have to focus on the fact that they haven't even incorporated all the older features into this game yet. Brewster, who was confirmed in the tease for the Direct, is a fantastic start. Hopefully, along with him comes the coffee-making minigame for your neighbors. It's one thing to have his inclusion, but a way to interact with him and give you something to do in the day is really what's needed. Here are some other examples. Katrina the fortune teller used to be able to influence your luck in the game depending on a few different factors. You could go to her and figure out what kind of clothes you needed to wear to avoid bad luck, which is absolutely a piece of content that would allow you to do more on any given day and should be welcome back. Gracie Grace was a giraffe that offered so many different things throughout the series, and we still haven't seen her yet. In the original game, she would show up and need her car washed. In later games, she would be a fashion judge, which we do admittedly have now. And in New Leaf, she would sell unique, extremely expensive furniture items that you could only find from her. She has a big personality and always brought charisma to the game, and she's missing in New Horizons. Her job of being a fashion judge has been fulfilled, but she clearly has other functions that could fit into the game now. Cap'n and Tortimer are missing as well. The reason why I lumped the two together is because in the previous game, New Leaf, the characters were synonymous with each other. You could ride Cap'n's boat over to Tortimer Island, a place where you could catch rare bugs and fish, find unique furniture sets, and play minigames with friends. I understand that using Nook Miles to explore random islands took over this feature in a way, but I believe these can coexist. Bring Tortimer's Island back as a multiplayer hub. Allow rare creatures to spawn there easier, sell furniture sets and crafting recipes that can't be found anywhere else, and simplify the absolutely broken online system so that you can play interesting minigames with friends. I missed the hit the lawnmower with a hammer minigame in New Leaf. It was simple fun that would be harmless to add back to the game. On top of all these characters being missing, so many unique furniture sets are not present in the game. Crafting is a fun, engaging idea for Animal Crossing to build on, but it shouldn't take over the pre-existing system of attempting to find and collect the furniture set. Two systems should be able to coexist, giving you more opportunities to decorate your island and your home. This helped give the game longevity if you found yourself to be an avid home designer, but now it's entirely replaced with a system that is good but lacking. It feels like a slap in the face in a way. We were told that content was going to be continually added, but all this content they hinted at was content that already existed in older games. So in reality, they aren't adding anything new, they are adding features that should have existed already in an unfinished game. If I'm really going to get sucked into New Horizons again, they have to add fresh, innovative features at this point. Let us take a hot air balloon trip with our villagers, let us go sailing with them, introduce a way to build shops on your island for the regular plaza visitors like New Leaf did, bring brand new visitors to the island. There's so many possibilities. The more there is to do on a daily basis, the easier it is to stay hooked. In its purest sense, content rollouts achieve this goal, but the content rollouts have been so infrequent and often felt lazy when they came. Number 3. The game can't continue on feeling this tedious. Why does New Horizons sometimes just feel like a chore to play? There are a handful of quality of life changes that could reduce the downtime in the game, downtime that really does feel sluggish enough for me not to want to engage with some mechanics in the game. First of all, you cannot craft more than one item at a time. This is the most indefensible lack of a feature in the entire game because it's such a simple thing to fix. One of my favorite additions I learned about in this game was the fishing bait. What a cool idea that I know I have thought of before and I'm sure many others have as well. Unfortunately, if you want to craft fishing bait, you have to dig up a clam and then use that one clam to craft one fishing bait. That means that every time you make a single fishing bait, you have to go through your menu, the text, and the crafting animation for a single-use fishing bait. And this might only catch you a sea bass. This makes the fishing bait borderline unusable because of how monotonous acquiring fish bait is. I understand having to dig up all the clams to earn the bait, but let us craft more than one at a time. Please. Along the same lines, if you are buying something from Timmy and Tommy or even from Leaf, you can only buy in quantities of 1 or 5. Why? If I want 3 saplings, I have to sit through the text 3 separate times on the same item. Even worse, if I'm buying from Leaf, I have to take the money out of my pockets, hand it to Leaf, and watch him put it in his pockets. I appreciate the animation and how it looks like a real exchange is happening, but this takes ages, I swear. Lastly, the online functionality needs some adjusting. Getting to and from an island is such a chore, and with the technology we have now, this really shouldn't be an issue. Take Super Smash Bros. On the Switch for an example. You can connect and fight with somebody via Wi-Fi in seconds. Going through a wall of text at the airport and waiting on a loading screen just to see my friend's island is pretty exhausting. Making multiplayer more accessible would go a long way in expanding the life cycle of the game. There's a part of me that knows all of this is too much to ask for. If content updates have been lackluster so far, what makes me think this will suddenly change? This is a 20-minute direct, and in my head, there's a decent chance we get 10 minutes on Brewster and 10 minutes on transferring your saved data to a new Switch like they've been promoting on their Twitter. But hopefully this is a step in the right direction. Animal Crossing is one of my favorite series ever, and I want to see it succeed. Whether you see this video before the direct or after, I hope that we have gotten confirmation that this content is on the way.